is Dr. Polly Tennis. I am the proud principal of Chestatee Elementary School, and I'd like to welcome you to our Veterans Day Assembly and Celebration. Today is a very special day. We have many honored guests, we have a wonderful student body, and a fantastic team of teachers here today to teach our children about patriotism and service to country. We would love to begin by celebrating and recognizing our military connections. We all have military connections. Some are direct. I have been so fortunate to be able to draw connections to many branches of the service. And today we are together to celebrate military connections to all branches. This is a wonderful time, boys and girls, to explore what we know about our families and how our families are connected to many branches of the service. As you grow older, you'll find different ways for yourself to connect to military service and to support your great country, the United States of America. This morning, I want to have a special guest welcome you to our Veterans Day Assembly. Miss Bruce is going to help me with this one.
Hello, howdy from Naval Air Station, Gainesville, Texas. I'm Clay Tennis, and I'm Dr. Tennis. 18 years ago, I was a student here at Chestatee Elementary. Staying here that season after 9/11.
I was 6 years old in my first grade classroom, and I learned about the events.
At that point, I knew I wanted to serve in the military, and I wasn't very quiet about it. I went as far as dressing up in uniform for school projects. Now, I fly aircraft for the U.S. Navy here in Gainesville, and I wanted to extend a thank you to our veterans who have gone before me and so many others. Thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. Have a happy Veterans Day.
Boys and girls, we all have connections, and that is my son, Lieutenant J.G. Clayton Tennis, who went to Chestatee Elementary School many years ago. When he showed you his uniform that he wore, he took pieces of his father's uniform for when he served in the military. And when he did the Living Museum, which is a special project that you guys will have a chance to be involved in, he chose to be Dwight D. Eisenhower and memorized a really impressive speech for that. He knew from a very early age that he wanted to be in service. And that is something I think he learned when he was in school. We are now going to all stand as our colors are presented by our Girl Scout troop. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the national anthem. You may be seated. Thank you. Friends, we have a lot to learn today. We have a lot to celebrate. And we definitely want to maximize our connections into the military service branches. One way we are going to do that to begin with is we're going to stand when we hear a branch of the service song. There are many branches of service. Each one is special and unique, and each one has a song to represent it. If you are a student or a guest today, when you hear your song played, please stand in recognition.
Up and down, in and out, listen to the doughboy shout as those caissons
really wish to thank all of our veterans for their service. As you can tell, we are getting a new sound system thanks to the boys and girls who raised money. And next year will be even better. We are recognizing this morning veterans from all branches of the service, and we are explaining what is Veterans Day. Let's take a look.
You probably know that every year on November 11th, Americans celebrate Veterans Day to honor the millions of men and women who have served or are serving in the nation's armed forces. But bet you didn't know the whole story behind the holiday. For starters, it wasn't originally called Veterans Day, but Armistice Day, to commemorate the truce signed between the Allies and Germany in World War I on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. The first Armistice Day in the U.S. was celebrated on November 11th, 1919. All business was suspended for 2 minutes starting at 11 a.m., and parades and public gatherings were held to commemorate the occasion. Later, America also began honoring its unknown soldiers on Armistice Day, a tradition that continues today. At 11 a.m. every Veterans Day, a color guard ceremony represents all branches of the military at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. In 1954, the name was changed to Veterans Day, following a national campaign to have the day honor all veterans, not just those who served in World War I. And did you know, for 7 years, Veterans Day was actually celebrated in October? In 1968, Congress moved Veterans Day to the fourth Monday in October so that government employees could enjoy a long weekend. But in 1975, President Gerald Ford returned Veterans Day to November 11th due to the historical significance. And that's where it sits on the calendar today. And do you know the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day? Both of them honor those men and women who have served in the military. But Memorial Day honors America's war dead, while Veterans Day honors all American veterans, living and dead. The U.S. Census Bureau estimates that there are currently over 21 million living military veterans in the United States. More than 16 million of these served during times of war, while 5.5 million served during peacetime only. So this Veterans Day, don't forget to say thanks to some of the millions of men and women who have served our country.
We have many things to learn, boys and girls, and today we are going to have Miss Craddock's class share a thank you for your service.
On Veterans Day, we honor all who answer to a service call. Soldiers young and soldiers old fought for freedom, brave and bold. Some have lived while others died, and all of them deserve our pride. We're proud of all the soldiers who kept thinking of red, white, and blue. They fought for us and all our rights. They fought for many days and nights. And though we may not know each name, we thank our veterans just the same.
Thank you, students. Today, boys and girls, I am proud to have 2 guest speakers to speak about Veterans Day to you. The first guest speaker is someone who you know very well. It is someone that you can see on a daily basis here at Chestatee. Someone who had made a commitment when he was a young man to service. This someone is our very own Mr. Boyd, who also is known as Captain Boyd of the United States Marine Corps.
Thank you, Dr. Tennis, for the opportunity to speak today. And good morning. What an amazing day it is to see all of these veterans here in this assembly. Boys and girls, today all across the nation, people are gathering just like we are here. They're gathering in schools, parks, churches, and community centers to honor our service members and to remember the sacrifices they've made for this great nation. I would like to ask in just a moment for all the service members to stand, but boys and girls, I want you to turn your head around and take a look to see. So if you wouldn't mind standing, if you are a veteran here today, so that our boys and girls can see just how many veterans are present. Thank you so much for your service. It is a huge deal. All the men and women that you see out here, they answered the call to duty. They have made America's military the most respected in the world. Now, students, I want to share a few things with you today to help you to make connections with what it means to answer the call to duty. First, service is not for everyone. In fact, only about 29% of Americans actually meet the physical and mental requirements to even consider military service. So, in my background as a math teacher, so I want to give you a little hands-on activity here so you guys can understand what that means. In this building, there's a little under 1,300 kids. About 29% of that is somewhere roughly, give or take a little bit, 400 students, which is approximately what we have right here. So if you think of all the kids in this entire school building, only the people sitting right here are mentally, emotionally, and physically capable of serving in the nation's military. Now, something even stranger than that is that the number of you that would actually stand up and say, I'll serve, becomes even smaller. So I'm going to call a few names just so you guys get the idea of who might actually put their hand in the air and stand. So if I call your name, just stand. Emma Runyon, Randy Ryder, Adelaide Paul, Walker Dugan, and Brandon Bisway. So none of these boys and girls actually knew that I was going to call their name today, so they're feeling a little like everybody's staring at you, right? Feels kind of odd, doesn't it? Now imagine, when asked to answer the call of duty, you would be the only ones in this building that will put your hand up and say, I'll do it. I'll defend this nation. You may sit down. So I show you this simply so that you may understand that it is no small treat to have so many veterans here with us today. It's a large number of men and women that stood up back there in the back for such a small percentage of Americans that actually stand up to answer the call. So what makes a person stand when everyone else sits? I know I asked some of these boys and girls to be a little bit uncomfortable when you stood and everybody was staring at you. So what makes a man or a woman stand and say, I'll do it, I'll defend this country? So some call it confidence, strength, or courage. I would say it has to do with all three of those things. But I believe it also first begins with passion and then perseverance. So we're going to get to both of those and kind of break it up, because passion is something that you guys learn about here at school in your 7 mindsets. It's something we try to give you so that you know what to look for. The Oxford Dictionary defines passion as an intense desire for something. Your passions are influenced by experiences, interactions, or events in your lives. You saw Dr. Tennis's son up here. He knows that event that occurred, 9/11, that sparked that passion. For me, I can remember a day back in January of 1991 watching the famed stealth bomber make the first runs on Baghdad. And we watched the TV, glued to the TV, lots of different things going on that night. And I knew that I wanted to be a part of something bigger. So for you guys, at this age, maybe it's mom or dad that influences you, a teacher, a coach, someone that has a major influence in your life that guides you towards your passions. Some of you may be in love with animals, and that may lead you to look into something called veterinary science. Others may find it a deep love for this country, and that may inspire you to choose a route of service. Whatever your passion is, I say follow it, because that passion will get you started. For the veterans in this room, our passion is what helped us to take those first steps to the recruiter's office. But perseverance is what got us to the end. You see, just because the men and women that sit with us today, that sit in the back here, just because they meet the physical and mental requirements for service, just because they chose to stand for something larger than themselves, just because they followed their passion into military service, that doesn't mean it was easy. I would go ahead and take a guess that if I went and interviewed every one of the men and women sitting back here, they would tell me, no, Mr. Wood, it wasn't easy. It was a wonderful experience, but it was not easy. I say this because life is going to present you challenges. Those passions are going to lead you to places that are going to be tough. Perseverance is what's going to get you through the other side. So I'm going to share a new story this year. Something from my experience and training that I think might help you guys understand perseverance that you might encounter in the Marine Corps. So there are a number of Marines that stood up back here when our song was played. So I am sure that you guys might remember this evolution, as we want to call it. So you have to learn in the Marine Corps how to don and clear a gas mask. So basically you have this mask, you have to put it on, you have to clear it so that you can breathe clean air. So you go into this small cinder block room with your mask on. There's haze in the air. It's something called tear gas, which is a particularly unpleasant substance that if you breathe it in, makes you feel like you cannot breathe. Makes your eyes water, burn. In fact, if you guys ever had a cold where you have to run through an entire box of Kleenexes in like a week, imagine running through that entire box of Kleenexes in about 3 or 4 minutes. That's how much mucus this stuff makes you produce. Now, mucus is a fancy word for snot. Oh, fantastic. You guys are with me here. All right, so I had this great picture. I was going to bring it, but I was like, you know what? Might not be that appropriate to show a picture of me walking out like this. And there's a lot of stuff coming out. And as you walk out of that building, another Marine very quickly has a cold bucket of water that they blast in your face to help you. But actually coming out of it wasn't the perseverance part. So when I was inside that room, you have an instructor that comes around to each of the Marines, and they have to observe you go through this protocol. First thing you got to say when that instructor steps in front of you is Bravo, Oscar, Yankee, Delta. Now that is my last name, using the phonetic alphabet. Boyd, B-O-Y-D, Bravo, Oscar, Yankee, Delta. And I go through my stuff, take the mask off, feel the burn in my eyes. I'm like, ooh, that's not pleasant. I need to put this mask back on, clear it so that I can breathe. As I'm doing this, one of the straps gets caught in the seal. And so at that point, when I took that first deep breath of what I thought was good oxygen, it was not. I sucked in all the gas from inside that room right into my mask, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks. And you feel your lungs start to fill up, and you're like, oh my gosh. And there's the doorway right there, and you can see it. If I just run to the doorway, it'll be over. But see, part of persevering is being able to overcome those obstacles, those failures. Some failures in life, they're actually good failures because you learn from them. I promise you, if someone gave me that mask right now, I could put it on without getting that strap cleared in there because I remember what it felt like. But I was able to persevere. I was able to overcome that obstacle. It was tough. It was not pleasant at all. And if any of you have ever had this same issue like I did in training, then you understand it's just not a pleasant experience. So let's talk about very quickly what perseverance is actually defined as. Now I lost my place. That might be over again. All right, so perseverance is the continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. So boys and girls, let me say it again. Perseverance is the continued effort to do or achieve your passion despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. Extremely important as you go through life. Maybe it's a test, maybe it's a sporting event, maybe it's that passion that you thought you had but it got a little too tough. I recently had a boy quit the soccer team that I coached because it was too much running. I find that even at the age of 9 or 10, when you choose to quit instead of persevere, every time you choose to quit, it becomes easier further down the road. Imagine how different life would be if people didn't persevere, if they didn't rise up and meet the challenge. The men and women in the back of this room know all too well what it means to persevere because they've done just that through their service. So use them as an example if you ever struggle to make it through. So I'm going to give you one more quick story. This is a repeat story. So those of you that are returning veterans year after year, I love my cookie story. I just cannot get enough of it because in training, there are just lots of things that go on that really cannot be explained. Some of them are stories that I cannot tell you until you become high schoolers. But the cookie story just kind of epitomizes the things that not only we teach here in school, but the things that the Marine Corps does. So essentially, when you're in boot camp, you have no opportunity to reach out and talk to loved ones, family members. You are there with the men and women that are there with you going through the same exercises. So every night we get something called mail call, which is a wonderful thing. If you get some little token, some kind of piece of information from home, it's a wonderful relief to you. Now, bad news is the drill instructors, they usually go through it and read it and make sure everything's good, make sure there's nothing in there that can't be allowed at training. So one day, my cousin sent me a box of cookies. Wonderful chocolate chip cookies. I remember it. Drill instructor calls me up in front. Boyd, get up here. Makes me open the box in front of him. Fantastic. Sergeant instructor, the cookies. He looks at them, says, those look good. I'm thinking, wow, I'm not going to get yelled at. I can't believe it. That didn't last very long. So not only did he yell at me, but he made me put the lid back on the box because there wasn't enough of them. Because there were 42 men in that squad bay, and there was only about 12 cookies, roughly. And he said, put the lid on it and shake it. So, of course, I took that box and I went, because there were cookies. I didn't want to tear them up. He's like, no, there were a few wonderful adjectives in there. And he made me shake it harder. And essentially what happened was my wonderful box of cookies that came from my cousin was now a box of crumbs. And he said, there, now you've got enough to share with every man in here. And we walked around and we gave out those cookie crumbs to everyone in there. So, what two things actually came out of that box of cookies? First, the most obvious is the drill instructor destroyed my box of cookies. And they were homemade. But second, and probably the most important thing, is the drill instructors were taking the me out of that. That fact that it was my box of cookies, they were removing that. And they were teaching us to become a team. They're teaching us to become a connected unit. Stop looking at the things that separate us. Start finding the things that connect us. So although that box of cookies was insignificant in the long run, those common experiences and common struggles, those formed the strings that connected all of those Marines in that unit. All of the Marines that earned the right to wear the Eagle Globe and Anchor. Now, the mission of America's military is more than just military force. Okay? There are a lot of humanitarian missions that go on, a lot of missions that happen here in the United States of America to support people when there's hurricanes, natural disasters, things of that nature. Two things that I can remember that I'm most proud of in my service actually have nothing to do with deployments or personal accomplishments, anything like that. The first one being when I was stationed in Pensacola, Florida, my unit actually built a Habitat for Humanity house. We got to actually go back and meet the people that live there. It was an incredible feeling of gratitude. We gave something, they were incredibly grateful back. It's two of the things that you guys learn here at school, live to give an attitude of gratitude, which is coming up. The next one, which I'm going to just go over very briefly, because even 25 years after the day that I met this person, I still get upset with it because of the enormity of the situation. As a young second lieutenant, we were taken to a VA hospital in Bethesda, Maryland. And we went out and we entered different rooms. Some of the people there were welcome. They wanted to come and talk to us. They loved the fact that we were there to say thank you. Some of them thanked us because it was important that people out there came back to visit them when they were in the VA hospital. One gentleman in particular I got to talk to, found out he fought in the Battle of the Bulge. Now, as you guys get older, you're going to learn all about U.S. history, world history. You're going to find out the Battle of the Bulge is one of those battles that shaped essentially the world, the landscape of the world. And I got to sit and talk to him. I listened. I couldn't wait to say thank you. And before I could say thank you, he thanked me. Shouldn't be like that. He's the one that gave so much. But you see, that attitude of gratitude goes throughout the services. As much as we kid each other about who's the best, and I kind of laid off the Marine Corps theme this year, I know you guys have heard me say every year how good the Marines are, but I want you to know that we have a great time kidding each other about how good we are, or how much better we are than the other units. But the bottom line is, we're grateful that we're in it together. So students, I have a couple things for you guys to do. An assignment. And I have an assignment for our veterans as well. So for the boys and girls here, the first thing I want you guys to do is find your passion and pursue it. The second thing, and probably the most important thing, is I want you to persevere in all things. So find a way to work through it and don't quit. Third, be grateful for the freedoms that you enjoy. Each one was paid for by a soldier. And lastly, thank the veteran, not just today, but any day. You can find veterans wearing their hats, as you see today. Sometimes they have tattoos that show. It's a simple thank you. If they want to share their story with you, then listen. And for our honored guests, our veterans, your assignment, on behalf of the faculty and staff of Chestatee Elementary School, I want to make this very simple. Don't make this your only visit to our school. We invite you back to honor us with your presence as Watchdog Dads, Chestatee Chicks, classroom volunteers. Maybe you want to come and be a classroom speaker. But please come and walk through our halls, be a part of our Chestatee family, and know that you are a shining example of what it means to answer the call. You will always have a home here at the T. Thank you.
Today I'm going to say Captain Boyd instead of Mr. Boyd. Thank you for sharing with us today and helping us celebrate. We are also honored to have a second speaker this morning. This speaker is connected to Parker and Ellie. I am welcoming to the stage right now someone's father, someone connected to Chestatee. This is Major Seth Ennerline, serving in the U.S. Army National Guard.
Can everybody hear me in the back?
You need it. Yeah.
I I really don't do well with these. Like, I'll start breathing funny. It's not good. Thank you. So, those are just incredibly interesting statistics that we got to read on the screen, and then Captain Boyd went over. But most importantly, Dr. Tennis, I want to congratulate you. This is probably the largest collection of people with a connection to the U.S. Air Force outside of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And good on you guys for acknowledging that. I've never been in a room with that many people willing to stand up and say they're connected to the Air Force. Captain Boyd was talking about there. So good morning. I'm very excited to be here, and what a great start to a wonderful day. This is a wonderful event that I've come to look forward to each year that my children have been here. And as with any good military speech, I think it's important to start with the thank yous. So, thank you, Dr. Tennis and the staff at Chestatee Elementary School for inviting me here today. Thanks to the children for putting such a wonderful display on. Thanks to all of the other veterans and family members that are present here today. A special thanks to my wife, Jamie, and my children, Parker and Ellie. I've had the privilege of serving for quite some time now, but it's only been possible because of their sacrifice that they have been willing to make. Now, kind of to set it off, if you're a non-commissioned officer, if you could please stand. And that's anybody that, E5 to E7. I'd really appreciate it. Or E9, rather. If y'all could take a look at these folks, man, I swear, if I told my family, and everyone I've ever talked to, if I ever get a chance to stand and talk in front of people, I'm going to thank NCOs. Your presence and guidance is appreciated by the soldiers who you train and lead, as well as the officers you mentor. You see, when I was a lieutenant and didn't know anything, there was always an NCO there to teach and guide me. When I was a captain that thought I knew everything, there was always an NCO there to keep me grounded and deflate my ego. And finally, now that I'm a field grade officer, it really feels like I've seen everything the Army can throw in front of me. There's always an NCO there to show me the surprises around every corner and to remind me to never remain complacent or think I'm above it all. So thank you so much for what you do. Don't worry, it's only about another 4 minutes. Being a veteran is something I'm very proud of. I'm most proud of the opportunity that I've had to serve others both in and out of my community, both home and abroad. I started my time in the Army as a young second lieutenant stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, in the 1st Cavalry Division. I quickly deployed as a platoon leader. I then attended my position assistant, or PA, training at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, and San Antonio, where I drank from the fire hose of information that is PA school and medical education. Following PA school, I found myself assigned to the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which would take me on 2 more deployments, each time as a battalion position assistant. And as a PA, I was the principal medical advisor to the command, and I took care of the soldiers when they were hurt or injured. Each of these assignments gave me a chance to serve in a different way. I was able to serve soldiers as a second lieutenant and leader, and then I was able to transition to a healthcare provider, serving my patients, who are also soldiers and their family members. It was wonderful to have a place in the community to be a part of a team. However, my service quickly became overshadowed by the sacrifices I was asking of my family. Multiple deployments, sometimes less than a year apart, made it very difficult to offer stability at home. This brought us to Georgia, where I'd be able to serve in the National Guard and offer the stability that our family was looking for. I transitioned to my current position at Northeast Georgia Medical Center, and the kids found their place here at the team. And then, of course, just as everything got settled, another deployment. This deployment, my most recent, would be a little bit harder on my family. Each deployment, they would sacrifice a little bit more. I think this is probably the most important thing to know. Service is very difficult, but it pales in comparison to the sacrifices those around you will make when you choose to serve. While I I think military life brings its own unique circumstances to the services and sacrifices, while I think military life brings its own unique circumstances, service and sacrifice is not cornered by the military. There are many positions and communities that require service of the individual and sacrifices of the family. In fact, one of the things I think that makes families most proud of service is the sacrifice they are willing to make so that individuals can serve a community and a larger purpose. Making a decision to serve is not easy, but once a decision is made to serve, the service itself is not difficult. Kids throw you off, man. Even when you think you're tough, kids throw you off. Making a decision, excuse me. It is not difficult to put others above yourself, and you simply work hard to make their lives a little bit safer or easier. The thing that I think is difficult about service is the sacrifice your loved ones make to ensure that you were able to serve and find fulfillment in your life. To bring it a little bit closer to home, take for instance the Live to Give Club here at Chestatee Elementary. What you do seems simple enough. You meet and try to think about ways you can make your community better through charity. You offer love and affection and compassion to folks that are in a bad way. When many kids your age don't, and I think that it should be recognized and celebrated. I think it's really special. The Live to Give Club is probably one of the best things this school offers. So I think maybe a round of applause. But we should also recognize the time your teachers, mentors, and family members give and show you to demonstrate how you can show that love, affection, and compassion. While this is not the exact same as the military, these little decisions, acts of service and sacrifices you make give you a little bit of insight into the life of those in service. Service is not without sacrifice, and rarely is the sacrifice you made to serve equal to the sacrifice others made to support you and push you forward in order to perform that service. So once again, thank you for letting me have this time to speak to you. Thank you for bringing me here and recognizing me and all these other veterans and all our family members. And once again, thank you to Dr. Tennis and the staff here at Chestatee Elementary School. You all have been very kind to my family. You've embraced us through yet another deployment. I think it's special that you recognize the sacrifice of families, specifically my wife and children. You recognize their sacrifices and went out in a way to make your own sacrifices to make their life just a little bit more comfortable or enjoyable. So please, think about that. Push yourselves to some kind of service every day. Whether it's in the military or Live to Give, or simply just helping your teachers in the classroom, or saying a kind word to someone with doubts. You may have to sacrifice time or energy, and it may not seem easy at first, but you just have to decide to take a step towards service, and then it'll fall into place. It will be easy. It will. There's perseverance involved, but after that first act of service, others come naturally. And then take a look behind you after you've done that. You'll see a large group of people behind you. A community pushing you forward to continue to do great things. You will find that a simple act of service and kindness will lead to another. You will feel a purpose and fulfillment that is unparalleled. those in need rather than push them down. You will find yourself looking to be surrounded by others, working through sacrifice and service to make each day better for those around you. Thanks again for having me. I hope you each find a way to serve in your community, whether that is local or abroad. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Major Enterline. There is so much truth in serving others and how well that benefits the whole community. I appreciate you making that connection to Live to Give. I'm not sure whether this is a good time to mention it or not, but that first son who's in the Navy, you've already met. I've got a second son. He's in the Air Force. Boys and girls, at this time, our chorus is going to sing The Brave and Because of You. Guys. It's been a wonderful assembly this morning. So much to learn, so much to celebrate. It's very important to take time to teach children about patriotism, citizenship, and being respectful. Boys and girls, there's lots of connections that you have to our military service. Find out today who in your family has had a connection to a branch of the service, and then, very important, thank them for their service. Find out who they are, put out your hand, shake their hand, and say thank you for your service. We have a